Hey guys, welcome to step one. I'm glad you made it here. So this step is going to be based around self-awareness. There is no way anyone can change very much, very fast without having great self-awareness. So that's one of the most important things for you in order to transform your life, to gain the health, wealth, and happiness. These are all three habitual lifestyles. Despite what people think, some people think that, wealth is totally associated with luck, or, same with health and happiness or whatever. But the thing is, each one of them is a habit, a habitual type of lifestyle where you go through routines, you view things certain ways, you talk to people in specific ways. Your routine when you wake up in the morning, what you eat for breakfast, what you eat for lunch, the way you approach your finances every single day. I frequently talk to business people about working on their business culture every single day, and how important that is. Well, that goes all the way down to your own life. Every day you need to work on your culture every day, because just like all things in life, if you don't pay attention and grow it, like the garden analogy, if you're not really cultivating your garden, making sure the weeds are gone and the plants have the right nutrients, the water, the good soil, sunlight, those things, then weeds are going to grow. It's inevitable. You're either letting a bed of weeds grow, or you're cultivating a garden. And that works with everything in our life. From the thoughts you have, if you're not working on having better thoughts, more productive thoughts, more effective thinking, you're just going to let junk fill your brain, which is kind of where we're at. I mean, we live in a time where you can get instant entertainment almost anywhere. You just turn on your phone, your TV, your laptop, your tablet, go to the movies, go to a play, go to a concert. There is tons of stuff, and I'm not saying those are all bad things, because there's good things in every single one of them. But what I'm saying is that it is instantly accessible all the time, and if that's your culture, is you wake up and watch TV, eat junk, eat sugary cereal for breakfast while you watch the TV. You go to work and just put your time in, and then go home and plug back in, watch TV, let your brain just rot. There's a reward for that, right? There's a consequence, I should say. I don't know if I would call it a reward. Everything in our lives is habitual, and everything needs attention and positivity in order to grow and get better. So this is about self-awareness. Every single one of us grew up in a culture. Whether it's you can think of your family culture, your community culture, your state culture, your national culture, and then we even have a global culture that you can watch changing, and that is very significant in business, because business is now global because of the internet, and that's a really cool thing. We've got the most free market ever, and it's really cool. Small guys can compete with big guys. The gatekeepers are gone. It's really interesting, right? So you need to pay attention to these cultures, but where we're starting is in your culture, you and your family culture. Every single one of us was born into some culture, and we learned to navigate that culture. So you may have been, you might be the youngest child of a huge family, or, the middle child always gets lost, things like that, right? You need to recognize where you came from, what your family culture was, and think about so here's the thing about your family culture. You learned to navigate the environment. You modeled people's behavior, your parents, brothers, sisters, friends, whatever. You were part of that community, and you learned how to roll in that community, and to be normal, right? You just wanted to be standard, or even above standard. You're still kind of judged by your culture. But then you move cultures, you know, maybe you grow up, you move away, you get a job, you do different things, and the habits and lifestyle that you formed as a child growing up may not be serving you in the best ways today, right? I grew up in a very small town, kind of a farm town. There's only maybe 2,500 people, or 3,000 people in town, and so it was very tight knit, super close, lots of family connections, friends were very close. All the sports and activities teams I was on had a lot of the same kids. The parents were always showing up. It was very close, right? Well, there's a specific culture there. And then I moved, and it's a pretty conservative town. And then I moved up to Salt Lake City to play basketball, and I went to the most liberal college in the state, and that was a culture shock. A lot of the kids at that school were from out of state. A lot of rich kids that, they were just coming to a private school to, be close to snowboarding and mountain biking and get this, specific type of education and everything. It was a totally different culture for me. It was a shock, coming right out of high school into that. I was unprepared, and I had to sort of learn a new culture, new vocabulary, new ways of, like what do we do in our free time in Salt Lake versus, the little small town. You just learn to adapt, right? Well, you don't always just want to fit in, because that might not be the healthiest. It might not be the most effective. It might not be taking you where you want to go, but you do need to be able to fit in, right? So there's sort of this balance, but you need to be self-aware enough to get there. The navigating our culture and understanding why that turned into habits is very important. T. Harv Eker refers to our financial blueprint, right? That you grew up with certain people and how they treated money and spoke about money created your financial blueprint. And he goes into more detail than that, but he's basically saying that, like you might have heard your parents say X, Y, and Z about money. You might have asked your mom if you could buy this, and she responded this way. Your dad responded this way, right? And then you develop this blueprint. Well, believe it or not, people get into a comfort zone and they just don't ever want to leave that little box, right? So your blueprint might be, even though you say you want $1 million, your blueprint might be that you're comfortable with your bank account basically at zero. So whenever you get money, you make sure you get rid of it real quick. Other people are comfortable with their bank account at, 10,000, 20,000, whatever. That's where they, that's their minimum. When they start blowing all their money, that's where they stop. Others, this is where everyone wants to get, is they're comfortable with their bank account growing. When I say bank account, I just mean your financial fitness, right? Your whole portfolio. Growth over time, month after month, or even week after week, just growth, right? That's where you want to be, because that is a path of security and freedom, right? Where you can choose. Now, some people are like, well, wouldn't we all want to be in that? Well, verbally we say so, but our habits don't reflect it. Most people don't use their money like that group of people. Most people use their money for hamburgers at fast food joints, candy bars in the checkout line, drinks from Starbucks, and drinks from the gas station. And most people use their money that way. And that is that's a pattern of a poor person or a standard average person, right? Rich people use their money to put it to work, to create a second income, a third income, a fourth. Some people have so many different sources of income that it almost doesn't even matter if they lost one source or two sources. They still have financial growth and financial freedom. They have time, money, and location freedom because of that, right? We need to learn these patterns and create those patterns. The same is true with your emotional health. You grew up in a culture. You learn how to communicate your emotions, how to identify your emotions, or shut down your emotions is the typical one. Brene Brown, she's got a PhD in I believe it's called method research. She's a social worker, and she's written several New York Times bestsellers. Her TED Talk, her Houston TED Talk, is what launched her fame in that area of her career, and she's very good with shame research and vulnerability and that sort of stuff. Well, she says in her book, Daring Greatly, I can't remember the number exactly, but it's something around like 85% of people could only identify 3 emotions when they're feeling them. 3! That, like, if you can only identify 3 emotions, I'm just going to venture to say you're not very good at identifying emotions, and therefore you don't have empathy for others either, because you can't recognize emotion in someone else when you can't feel it in yourself. Maybe you recognize something's off, but you can't identify, right? Empathy is how we connect with other people. Vulnerability is how we connect. That's how we find joy. That's how we go through struggle and come out high. It's like most people want to just be numb, right in the middle. You can't numb one emotion without numbing all emotions. So it's like if you don't want to be sad or scared or depressed anymore, you just numb it, right? Well, that numbs your joy too. So most people are just sort of in the angry, happy, tired phase, right? Those are my emotions, and that's how excited I get. It's like, so you need to learn, you need to understand how your culture works with emotions, because that's a huge part of growth in every aspect of your life. Your creativity will be suppressed if you're suppressing your emotions. Your financial future will be very much attached to that. What things are holding you back. It'll be tough to identify the real fears you have if everything's just kind of been numbed out. And I know a lot of people, probably most people, as I say this stuff, are going, well, that's not me. But the truth is, it is you. It is you. It's most people. Remember, she said 85% could only identify 3 emotions. There is a huge list of emotions you should be able to identify and express and identify in others and relate, have empathy, connect, go be vulnerable, you know, bring your guard down at the appropriate time, stuff like this, right? These are things in your culture, and I'm gonna leave a whole bunch of resources on this page that you're watching this video of things that you can do to identify emotions, to identify your money blueprint, and how to learn from those who have mastered some of these skills and have found great success. Brene Brown being one of them, right? So I just want to, here's a really good quote out of C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. And I'm not going towards religion with this. The point, the principle in it is what I want you to hear. So he says, no man knows how bad he is till he has tried very hard to be good. A silly idea is current that good people do not know what temptation means. This is an obvious lie. Only those who try to resist temptation know how strong it is. After all, you find out the strength of the German army by fighting against it, not by giving in. You find out the strength of a wind by trying to walk against it, not by lying down. A man who gives in to temptation after 5 minutes simply does not know what it would have been like an hour later. That is why bad people, in one sense, know very little about badness. They have lived a sheltered life by always giving in. We never find out the strength of the evil impulse inside us until we try to fight it. So he's talking about, obviously, like, this is assuming you believe in sin versus, goodness or whatever. That principle applies to every aspect of our life. Your money habits, going back to the first of the video. You don't know what it's like to save your money and invest your money and curb your spending habits in certain ways unless you commit to it over the long term. If you change your habits for 2-3 weeks, maybe even a few months, and then you go, well, I'm not getting rich, or my life isn't fun anymore. Whatever, like that's your attitude and you just go back to the old ways, well, you won't ever understand what it's like to be a rich person. Because rich people are responsible with their money and they have a specific habit around their money. And once they became rich, they were able to spend small amounts of money, but small amounts of money to a rich person is usually an awesome car that most people can't afford, or really cool vacations with their family that most people can't afford. And to these people, it's petty cash, right? You'll never understand that if you can't live like them. You need to fight against those impulses in order to understand where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are. Maybe you're already good with money, but you've got some emotional baggage that's keeping you tied up, right? All the principle applies. You'll never know what it's like to be, more successful or on a different playing field if you always just give in within a very short period of time. That's why the whole New Year's resolutions thing never goes well for the majority of the population. America in general has a lot of obesity problems. Well, how many of those people actually change on the new year? I recently read that it's only 2%. Only 2 out of 100 people that go on a diet stick with it, keep the weight off. Well, that's not very good odds, people. So instead of trying to force yourself and fight against it, you need to learn what are the emotions, what are the habits, what is the culture, and engage into the cultures that are different, that are more successful, that are going the places you want to be. Learn from the people who are already where you want to be. So we all learn from mistakes, and that's fine. But Warren Buffett says it doesn't have to be our mistakes, right? So you need to hang around people that are more successful in the areas that you want to be successful at. So I spend as much time as I possibly can reading and watching videos online of people that are where I want to go. They've already achieved all the things that I want to achieve in my life, so I hang out with them. Some of them I literally hang out with during my day on the phone, or I get together, go to lunch, those types of things. But majority of my mentorship and information comes from me seeking it out online and in books or articles. So I'll give you those resources, the little nuggets that I find from those things. That's what I'm compiled here in these steps to help you get sort of a snapshot, quick lifestyle change steps process so that you can live the life that you want. Remember, the channel is called The Lifestyle of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Happy. The lifestyle is habitual. So let's create a habit. Let's create habits, I should say, to build the life that you want. Thanks for joining me here, and carry on with the steps. We'll see you in the next video.